Welcome to the Alcohol Tipping Point podcast. I'm your host, Deb Maisner. I'm a registered nurse, health coach, and alcohol-free badass. I have found that there's more than one way to address drinking. If you've ever asked yourself if drinking is taking more than it's giving, or if you've found that you're drinking more than usual, you may have reached your own alcohol tipping point. The Alcohol Tipping Point is a podcast for you to find tips, tools, and thoughts to change your drinking. Whether you're ready to quit forever or a week, this is the place for you. You are not stuck and you can change. Let's get started. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you. I want to take a sec to invite you to the next Alcoholiday. It's a monthly dry group where I help people practice not drinking. This is for you if you feel like you're struggling, if you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like you're broken, you're never going to get it. I want to just support you and arm you with lots of different tools to battle cravings, work on your thinking about drinking, be more kind and compassionate to yourself as you're doing this. You know, drinking is a habit, and it's probably something you've done for years or decades even. So it takes a while to unwind it. And that's why I'm so passionate about focusing on practicing not drinking, working on progress, not perfection. I love the saying, focus on the direction, not perfection. And I think it's important just to have these types of groups, programs that just give you a safe place that has no shame, no judgment. A safe place where you can just learn new tools and just start unwinding the habit so that it gets easier and easier for you to drink less or not at all. I would love to have you join the next Alcoholiday. It starts the first of every month. As a podcast listener, you always get 20% off by using the code LOVE, L-O-V-E. And it is hosted on a private platform. It is a HIPAA protected platform. It's really important to me as a nurse just to have privacy and a safe place for you. And what you get is daily emails, lessons, accountability. You get lots and lots of tools to battle cravings. You get a really detailed guidebook, journal to help you out during those 30 days, 31 days, whatever the length of the month is. And then you get downloadable audio meditations, just something to go to when you're feeling a craving. We also do weekly group chats, weekly group support calls led by me and another sober coach twice a week. And then there's also a private chat where you can just share with others, support others. And it's just a great place to practice not drinking. The cost is $89. US dollars, that is. So it's less than $3 a day. Plus, use that LOVE code to get your discount. And just a little background on me, I have been a registered nurse for 20 years. I'm a board certified health coach. I'm a smart recovery certified facilitator, an addiction certified mental health professional. I'm a mindfulness instructor. And then you all know I like to call myself an alcohol-free badass. I've been alcohol-free for 4.5 years now. So I would love to see you in the next group. You can sign up at alcoholtippingpoint.com/alcoholiday and join there. I also will link it in my show notes. Wherever you are with your drinking journey, just know that I am rooting for you, that you are not broken and you can change. Thanks so much. I am so excited to have on the podcast today my friend, Danielle LeBoeuf. She is a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a nurse from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I first met her when she slid into my DMs of Instagram when she was just starting to change her drinking. She ended up joining one of my groups, and that was, last fall. And ever since then, I have just watched Danielle grow and thrive and just really, it's just been beautiful to watch you on this alcohol-free journey you've been on. and we've talked a lot about you sharing your story, and so I'm just so honored and excited to have you here to share your story, Danielle. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. That gives me just goosebumps to hear you describe that year, this last year, and what you've meant to me and the group has meant to me is indescribable. My gratefulness is, I can't put words around it, but thank you. Thank you for what you've created here.
Oh, thank you. Well, I already did kind of an intro that we know you're in Michigan. We know that you're all these things to all these other people. Is there anything you would add to who you are and what you do?
Not I mean, you got the grandma part. Right now, I feel like that's the biggest part, right, of my world in a way, being a grandma. I have one grandson. He is, not he's just a year and a half old, so of course he's the light of my life, but that grandma thing is pretty special. But no, I think you incorporated it all. That is who I am. I'm mostly, my family comes number 1 in my life, always has, always will. My husband, my kids, grandkids now, that is my number 1. I work in nursing administration. I work in healthcare administration. So that has its own challenges at times, but I'm extremely passionate about healthcare. I've been a nurse for over 30 years, and it is truly what I believe I was meant to do. I love the healthcare industry. I love, it's had its challenges, of course. We know that. We won't even go there, and it will continue to have challenges. But what we do for people and being a part of their lives in those moments when they're needing care, I find to be the greatest honor. And I feel very blessed that that is the realm that I can work in.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, you
me.
fit it so, so well. And I mean, we get a lot of nurses. I get a lot of nurses in my group. Maybe because I'm a nurse too, and we just kind of attract each other and it's a vibe. But yeah, just always connecting with fellow nurses and healthcare workers. Like we just get it.
We do. And we work in high stress situations mostly on a daily basis. Some occupations have stressful times throughout the year, but we see it daily. So we do kind of bond to one another in a very quick way because it takes a team a lot of times to make it through a day. So it is a special connection in healthcare.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, where do you want to start with your experience with drinking? How did it begin for you? When did it become a problem? And how did you unravel it?
Yeah, let's just start right back in the beginning. I a lot of times describe alcohol in this last year as not just in the last year, but realizing that throughout my life, it was one of my greatest loves. And it had always been there. It had been there to celebrate, to grieve, when I was bored, to have fun, you name it. Alcohol was my date. Um, and it probably like around the age of 13 was the first time I had drank, and it was a binge drinking experience. It was brandy right out of the bottle, which led right to, of course, a blackout situation and then a very, very nasty hangover. My high school, college years, 20s, they didn't involve a lot of drinking really. It was in my 30s, and I have 3 kids that are now all adults, and I remember it very clearly. I have this young family. The oldest 2 are boys. They're very busy. They're very rambunctious. They're physical. It was a lot of chaos, a lot of noise, and I was making supper, and I thought, "Oh gosh, I'm just gonna have a glass of wine." And it just settled me. I remember it just kind of calming me. It's kind of that mommy wine culture time for sure. And boy, did I buy into it. I had the shirts. I had the magnets on my refrigerator. I had all the, any excuse to, just really I dove head into that culture. And then, just having that mommy's little helper, so to speak, just to calm me down at night became more of a regular occurrence for me because there was always chaos. There was always a lot of noise in the house, and so that kinda just settled me. And then moving through my 30s, I would say, like, into my 40s, then you start hitting into the time of maybe I wanna lose some weight. Well, keto was very popular. So with keto came Tito's, right? Because that was on that approved list for keto. So then I kind of switched to having more I would say, of the vodka drinks once in a while, which became more regular. In the end, I became a daily drinker, not to the point of um intoxicated, but to the point of every night while I'm making supper, I needed a glass of wine. If I was grilling, I needed a beer. I just had like I said, it was my date. It was always there. If I had a bad day at work, it was good Lord, I need a drink. But then about 7 years ago, pin for reference, I'm 51 now. About 7 years ago, I was like, I don't think this is too normal. I seem a little maybe dependent on this. Or my other thought that kept running through is I can't seem to lose weight like I used to in my 20s. What the heck's going on? Right. So I would give up alcohol for 30 days at a time. I did dry January pretty much every year. I wasn't successful every year, but for the most part, I was. Damn, it was hard. And every time I did those 30 days and dealing with the social questions of, "You're not drinking? Why aren't you drinking?" Well, and then you always hear the other person's, "Well, I don't drink that much," you know? And it's like, this is really it just became a bigger thing socially that I was ready to answer the questions for. So after a few attempts of those 30 days, and during the 30 days getting glimpses of I like who I am without alcohol. I like who I am better than when I'm drinking alcohol. Realizing that I probably need this long term. But I didn't do it, right? That was 7 years ago, and so then what would happen was, I'd keep trying, I'd get 30 days, and then bam, I'd fall off. I think the longest I ever got prior to this year was somewhere in, like, 60 some days. And most of the time, I was kind of white knuckling. I was trying to keep myself busy and I was trying to do new things, but I didn't have it all put together yet. So, as much as I want to say those were failures, none of them were a failure. Every one of them gave me a piece to bring to my success here today. I learned something in every one of those attempts. While at the time I didn't feel it and I didn't know it, that came together for me in this past year. So, like for instance, I was Annie Grace's book, This Naked Mind. That was a podcast that I would listen to frequently, and they would do, people's stories similar to like what we're doing right now. And a lot of times the individual would say that they read the book and everything clicked for them. It was like a switch turned. And I read that book 4 times because I kept waiting for that light switch to flip for me. Eventually I burned the book, but I wish I still had it. That book did teach me so much. It's just I didn't see it at the time. Foundation was being laid, and I wasn't, I just didn't know it then. So all those attempts weren't for naught. I brought them with me. All those experiences came with me when I got to this journey. And when we got and it also was a progressive. So COVID, of course, was stressful for everybody, right? 2020 was stressful. I happen to have a husband at the time going through cancer for the second time, requiring daily radiation treatments. I had a full house on lockdown. I was the only one working. Everyone else was, here in the house. I was working in healthcare. So I noticed during that time, I really drank a lot more. And then even when that time started to subside, I wasn't backing off. It was like I had this new baseline I had to get to. It was the waking up in the middle of the night. It was every single night, whether I had had 2 drinks before bed or more than that. And I would do the inventory. How much did I drink? Did I slur my words? Did I say something stupid? Never again. I'm not going to drink again. And I would just beat myself up every single day. And then I would wake myself up in the morning when I would get up then, it would be this um, beat myself up again working out in my basement, like the exercise torture, because I'm going to be healthy. Damn it. Today is the day. It's going to be different. Right. And it's going to start with an hour of cardio. So that carried on, that cycle. And then I'd stop for a little bit and then I'd start back up. And again, it was always just getting to be a little bit progressively more. And it was the summer of 23. I had lost a family member who was very close to me unexpectedly. So going through grief again, brought my date with me, right? The greatest love of my life. Alcohol was there with me to help deal with this grief and this what we were dealing with. And I knew something had to change. I knew that I had to find a way out of this knot. or it was going to own me. And that not was love, the love I had for alcohol. I knew I had to break up with it, but I just could not imagine a life without it. I couldn't imagine. How do you freaking celebrate something? How do you, like, if it's your anniversary, is it really your anniversary? If you can't go to your favorite restaurant and have your favorite cocktail that they make? If you're grilling, does your meat even fucking turn out if you don't have a beer in your hand? Like, that's how I felt about it. How can this be? So, but I woke up the morning of September 18th and said what I had said so many times before, that this isn't enough. I'm not going to drink anymore. And I didn't know that it would be different that day. I didn't know that that attempt would be successful. I didn't know that the year that I would be the most proud of in my whole life would be that year. I had no idea. I thought it was a big fat failure. I was pretty sure I'd fail. In fact, I was scared shitless come November when I still wasn't failing. I couldn't figure out what was wrong. How was I still succeeding? But I was. And I think, some of the things that, like, leading up to September 18th, I had noticed I was getting a lot of anxiety. At the time, I thought it was wine wasn't sitting well with me. I was getting a lot of, like my heart was racing. I definitely would not sleep after I drank wine. And so I was doing a little bit of research around that, and I was seeing a lot of the effects of perimenopause and alcohol. And I was definitely at that time in my life. It was, there was other symptoms as well. There was a lot of faint brain fog. It's better now, believe it or not, even though I'm stumbling over that word. There was a lot of brain fog. And that and fatigue, just tired all the time. My moods were very blasé. I didn't seem to have a high or low. I just kind of stayed in the middle with a variation of annoyance. And so the more I was reading about perimenopause, there was a lot of dietary things they had said, a lot of supplemental things they had said, but alcohol kept coming up. And I knew that it was time. Again, I knew for personal reasons as well, plus just the fact that it continued to increase. My usage was starting to increase. I never had a drunk driving. I never missed a day of work because I was drinking. I, got up every day. I worked long days. I was very functional. I was very present in my family, but it was taking away from the person that I was inside, or the person that I could be. So we start from there. So then September 18th, like I said, I had done many dry Januaries. I knew the drill. You fire up the podcasts. You, Deb, are one of my favorites. So I had you on repeat in my ears on a pretty regular basis. Hello Someday was another one I highly enjoyed. And Sober Powered. They really enjoyed all of them. One of the things that I tried to be more strategic about this time was the podcasts that I was listening to were more aligned with where I was in my journey. So they were all about the early days. How do you get through those early days? And I queued them up the day before so that they were all saved and they were easy for me to get going the next day. So when I got up in the morning, the first thing I did was take inventory about how much I drank the night before. And then I realized I didn't. So I was like, okay, good job. And I thanked myself for that. I just thank you for not. Thank you. You did it. And in one of those early podcasts, it was mentioned that every day is like a brick. You are building a new wall, you are building a new foundation. And the sturdier you make the foundation, the stronger it will be. So build that wall every day, lay a brick. It is the wall that will be between you and alcohol. It will feel ugly, it won't be fun, and but it will eventually be there. And I really lived by that philosophy. And many times throughout the year, I had to rely back on, I will lay a brick today. There will be a brick on this foundation today. And the first few days was just really moving my body, lots of steps, listening to podcasts, eating the junk food, eating whatever the hell I wanted. I really had to take the scale out of the equation on this one, because times prior, I always kept it as a part of it, and, would see the scale going in a way I didn't like. And that would just be what I needed to run back to alcohol. So I really had to take, I mean, I still continued to weigh myself, but not I don't know, just for data. I like data, I'll get to that too. But so I still continued, but I did not let it affect me. I would, sometimes I would see it and say, wow, that number's going up, it's down. And I would say, but that's not what I'm focused on right now in my life. That's what I would have to remind myself. And then I had to, everybody talked about in the podcasts and people who are successful, that they just started doing the work. They started doing the work. And I was like, for so many years, I was like, what is the frickin' work? Tell me. Do I have to do 10 push-ups? Do I have to run 3 miles? Do I have to write 7 pages? Is it a 5,000 word essay? What is it? And I didn't understand it, but yet I had I had laid that foundation of doing the work. And the work was listening to the podcast, reflecting on what I was hearing, moving my body. And it was a huge part of loving myself, just loving myself. I had to not allow myself to beat myself up. I used I used the words when you hear your self-talk, you need to decide. I'd heard this somewhere else. You need to think, are you going to say this to a friend? Would you say this to a friend? And so I really lived by that. When I heard those words, when I heard myself talk, and boy, it was pretty nasty. It was pretty nasty in the beginning. I was going to a birthday party at a winery, and my self talk was, you're going to look like the biggest idiot there. I don't even know why you're not drinking today because there's no way you're making it through the winery party. There's no way. And I was just like, but there was another, there was a whisper that was saying, what if? What if you do? What if? And I really leaned into what if. And I really decided to bet on the underdog. And and it was hard. It was a daily decision. It wasn't like one day I said, "Yep, I'm going to follow this voice." Every day, multiple times, I had to remind myself, I'm listening to the what if voice today. And so I kept doing that. And what if, that voice just kept getting stronger? I wasn't my best self those first few months. I was irritable. If I had a not so great day at work, or my husband and I were maybe squabbling about something, I felt like I had no release. I didn't know what to do with those emotions yet. And emotions felt so strong, so strong, but I had to figure them out. So with that, I wasn't my best self. There were times I was short with people I didn't mean to be short with, but I didn't allow myself to be negative about that. I mean, I apologized where I needed to apologize and own it, of course, but I didn't berate myself for it, and I didn't let it bring me down. And that was the work. That was the effort. Learning to truly love myself. And that was hard. But once you get there, that's that's a whole nother awesome. I can't, I guess we'll keep going to that. But so we got through, like I said, it was September. I had a very nice pink cloud for several months. I I was I was so excited for Christmas. I was putting up Christmas trees. I had Christmas lights. I had so much energy. I was getting so much done at night. I had holiday ice cubes, for crying out loud. I mean, it was ridiculous. Well, it wasn't. It was fun. But I was on, my high was very high then. I was enjoying things on a level I hadn't enjoyed them in the past. I was present in conversations. Initially, I wasn't sleeping very well at all. I was not, but that rectified itself within a few weeks. And then I was sleeping so good. And I had confidence. I had this little bit of confidence in myself where I was kind of like, where the hell did this come? I don't know where it came from, but I'm keeping it. It feels good. So those first 3, 4 months were really quite great. There were a few social settings. Like I said, I went to a winery for a birthday party, and yes, I drank water the whole time. It was fine. Was it fun? Hell no. It was not fun. It was like 7 days in. I was fidgeting. I didn't quite know what to do. Would I go again today? Oh my gosh. I'd hop in my car right now and I'd pick up all my friends that wanted to if they were going to have drinks, I was going to drive them home for sure. I'd bring my own fabulous bottle of NA wine. It wouldn't phase me to go there today. But that first time was not fun. Then we had a beer festival in October that we already had tickets for. And I decided I sold my ticket and I was going to be the designated driver instead. So then, at least I was branded with that wristband and that would keep me from drinking. I mean, I'm not going to say that that was kind of fun. It was fun to visit with other people and it was okay, but it still wasn't comfortable yet. Again, that same beer festival comes up this weekend. I'm not going, but I offered to go and it would have been fun. It would have been okay. I'm comfortable in my sober skin. I'm comfortable in my sober self, I guess is the way to put it, very much. So, yeah, some of those first events were kind of icky. But heading into the holidays, my husband and I were going to a restaurant and they're very well known for a certain cocktail. And we had just, flippantly said, "Hey, why don't we head to this restaurant Friday night?" He's like, "Yeah, that sounds nice." And immediately my mind went to my date, that cocktail. It went there. And I thought I could see myself sitting at that table with my hand on that cocktail. And I was like, but I won't have that cocktail. So why do I even want to go there? But then my mind pushed it a little farther and went, why does the chemical composition of the liquid in your glass get to determine whether that night is going to be good or not? Why does that get to determine how much fun you have? And I was like, then with the help of, some others, I wrote up the chemical makeup of that cocktail, like the literal ETOH and, the molecules and everything else, because that just took time and put my mind on something else. And then wrote up the same chemical makeup of what I would order instead and realized how much healthier that one was, the alcohol-free version. And then I was like, well, that's ridiculous that it has that power. And you had at the same time, Deb, you had challenged me because you had asked me one time, we had we had met and I said, I'm just so scared. Like I said at the beginning of this, I was so, November came and I was still doing it and I was scared to death because I couldn't figure out how I was doing it. I felt like the tail on the end of a kite. I felt like I was just hanging on, thinking, is this really happening? And you challenged me and you kept asking me why. Why are you scared? And I said, because I'm afraid I'm going to fail. And you said, what scares you about that? And I said, well, because then I'll just keep drinking. Well, what scares you about that? Well, every time I go back, it seems like I start to drink more. Well, what scares you about that? And you kept challenging me. And I think we only got so far on that call, but it was enough to tell me I had to dig deeper. And so I did. And I sat and I kept writing the whys. And I kept giving the little answer and I kept writing the whys until I got to the point that alcohol had the power. I really believed that alcohol had the power. And writing that out, I realized it only had the power because I gave it the power. I had the power to take it back. And again, it was a very powerful moment for me, along with when I wrote out the chemical composition of a cocktail and thinking about that power. Why do those chemicals get that power? And I didn't feel nearly as scared after that. After that, I didn't feel scared at all. I felt like this is my journey. I'm driving this bus. I can take whatever road I want to take, but I am in control. And that helped me tremendously. The holidays were beautiful. They were, I had my witching hour for sure. I had my time of day where I had to keep myself busy and I had to find other things to do. Eventually, that completely went away for me. I don't have that at all now. I don't when I get home at night and I think, "What do I want to drink?" It's amongst the 6 tea options I might have or whatever, sparkling water, and I'm excited about every one of them. I'm just as excited about them, actually more so than I was over alcohol, to tell you the truth. So, that I did have some of that yet through the holidays. And then January, maybe around the end of January or February, I said my pink cloud took off, and it didn't just take off, it just exploded. It was gone. I felt like it just spit in my face. And I was kind of down, and I couldn't tell why. I wasn't, you know, I wasn't enjoying things as much. It wasn't that I wanted to drink either though. It was just that I was just kind of not sure. Every day just felt kind of blah. Like I'd come home and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, well, did that. I guess I'll make supper. I guess I'll take a bath. I don't know." You know, the and it's the dead of winter where I live at this time as well. So there could be a little seasonal affective disorder in there too. But I was still trying to I didn't want to exercise at all. I didn't. I barely did. And then I started relying on food again. And the scale started going back up. And I was like, I'm going to trust this process. Everything I've heard on the podcasts that I've read, the Quitlet, your group, I just need to keep going. I need I need to keep laying bricks. I need to keep building this foundation. This isn't fun, but I need to keep doing this. And that's what I did. I just kept going. Around I think it was around March, I was getting a massage. I was away for the weekend with a friend, and I had a spa day planned, and I was getting a massage, and I decided to just treat this massage as a huge thank you to my body for getting me through years of drunk shenanigans and just maybe not taking care of it very well, and just be extremely thankful. And boy, did I cry. That poor massage girl. She must have thought, "This is a special one here." But we got through it. We got through it, and I just felt I felt a release from that. And come April, well, I had been seeing a therapist at the time too, and she had mentioned something to me about post-acute withdrawal syndrome. And she said, I think that's what you're going through." And I really didn't like the word syndrome. Maybe it's from my medical training. I don't know. But to me, that can be give it time, and that can be recalibrated. So I went with post acute withdrawal recalibration in my mind. Like maybe this is just a process my brain needs to go through right now. And I am going to love it, and I am going to nurture it because by golly, it was there for me when I wasn't taking very good care of it. So that's what I am going to do for my body now is just love it and nurture it. And we got through that, and during that time too, sorry to back up to this again, but emotions, holy crap, anger, boiling rage. And that is not like not not who I thought I was. I mean, I remember slamming a car door so hard one time, I wanted to break the door. And that is not my that's just that wasn't anybody I knew prior to this. It just kind of shocked me. So there was a lot of there was that, there was anger, there was anxiety for sure. There was a little depression, although working in the field I work in, I had access to depression screening questionnaires. So I was able to safely monitor that, and I knew when I would have needed to definitely make an appointment with my provider. I was fortunate in that I did not, but there was a little bit of, lack of joy in things for sure. And this again is where the work comes in. So instead of being shamed at the anger, at the anxiety, at the depression, instead of being shamed by them, I had to love them. I had to say, "Hi, I don't know who you are, but you are definitely a part of me because you're coming right from the very core of me, shooting out either my fingertips in an email or my mouth or God knows what. But you're definitely a part of me. And we need to get to know each other in a different way." So, especially for anger, I have found that when that anger starts boiling, I acknowledge it. You're here. Okay. You're trying to protect me. There's a reason for you coming. You don't just show up. You're trying to protect me. I'm not in danger. So let's just deal with, the facts that we know right now. Like at work, anger's not going to write the email. That's just silly. And so I really learned how to embrace those emotions. I learned how to have a down day and just have a down day. Don't be upset about it. It is perfectly fine if you're just going to have a day where you're just not your best self, where you might say something that wasn't quite what maybe you should have said. that's okay. If you hurt anybody's feelings, I needed to go back and own that for sure and take responsibility. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like I was just blowing people off or whatnot, but it was just like, you know, just you just knew you weren't I didn't force myself to be somebody I wasn't. And I think with alcohol, I did that. I did that a lot. Um, so that was so now me and the emotions are starting to get to know each other. And again, that is a huge part of the work. We're starting to get to know each other. And then we roll around to April. And it was just like, and again, it's spring here. So, add your seasons in there and how they're affecting me. But it was just like the clouds opened up and the sun started shining. I suddenly was embracing the word sober when prior to this, I was still kind of lying. I was still like, well, I'm just kind of laying off alcohol for a little while. In the beginning, I lied about everything. I had an infected tooth. I'm in a sober challenge. I'm the designated driver. If you ever need an excuse, I got one for you. And I stand by that. I needed to do that in those early days. I stand by what I did there. I was protecting myself. I had and and now I was like embracing it. I was just so open about it. And it was almost like that time period my identity was changing. I didn't know it. I didn't I felt this turmoil in me, and it was like I truly broke up with alcohol. It was like I was grieving, that greatest love had been there with me for everything, and I wasn't taking it to a damn thing from then on. So we were breaking up. This is it. It's a hard breakup. Like you are blocked in my phone, you are blocked on social media, you are not contacting me again. And so I think I had to grieve that. And that was okay. I That grief period was a little dark, but I just kept trusting the process and I came out into this new world. I celebrated my 1 year completely alcohol free. I plan to make this a lifetime commitment. There is nothing about my life that was better with alcohol. Not a damn thing. Nothing. My son is getting married in a couple of months. And I'm I don't feel sad that I won't be drinking at his wedding. I don't think it will be less than in any way. I think it will be more than. It will be so much better, not drinking. I'm not judgmental in any way of people who are drinking. That's not what this is about at all. This is a completely personal on me choice. This is better for me. I have my own little NA bar planned for his wedding so that, I can offer my friends some of my favorite NA wines and NA beers just to be supportive of wherever anybody is on their journey. Or maybe they're just the DD that night. Maybe they're pregnant. I don't care. I just welcome to my little NA world that I love. My confidence is so much better. This will sound arrogant, but at some point, I was listening to Mel Robbins throughout this period, and she said, "You need to look yourself in the eye every day in the mirror and say, 'I'm fucking awesome.'" And she says, "You gotta do it. You might not you won't believe it. You won't believe it initially." And then she made a point about how you have to really look yourself in the eye, and that is hard. At first, when I started, I walked by the mirror and it was a quick glance and I said it and kept going. Like I didn't, and then I'm like, "Well, this is stupid, and I didn't like I'd forget a few days and then I'd do it again. And then it's like, no, you got to look yourself in the eye. So then I really stopped and I would look myself in the eye and I would say, "You're fucking awesome." And I didn't believe it. But now I believe it, and not in an arrogant way at all. I don't think I'm above making mistakes. I don't think I'm, above anything. I think I'm awesome in the way that I can bring my best self forward. I can be intentional. I can be genuine. I am a compassionate person. I love people. And I know that I can bring that out. And in that way, do I mean I'm awesome. And when you really truly look yourself in the eye and say that, it's weird. It is so weird initially, but then it gets to the point where it's like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I kind of believe that." And then you start to like, you hop out of bed and it's what you do before you brush your teeth. So it's good. That was a good thing. Let's see. I think that kind of brings us to today. Oh, no, I wanted to say one thing about the data part. So I had mentioned earlier that I love data. It's a part of what I do in work, and you should always have a measurement of your success, right? So I made a pie chart for myself at one point to look at how much of my day was spent in relation to alcohol. So I included the the morning waking hours. I included those because I was mad at myself for anything I had drank the night before, and then the exercise that came with it. I included those hours. And in the beration that came with it, "I'm not doing this again. Why did you do it?" That, you're never whatever. You're never gonna succeed, those kinda that negative self-talk. I included that time. I had a good, chunk of time at work where I was productive and it wasn't involved. But then as it got closer to the evening hours, I that time started to be consumed with, "What will I drink tonight? Will I drink tonight? Oh, why not? Might as well drink another night, right?" And then that goes into the evening hours, and I included the crappy sleep. At the end of the day, and my pie chart showed me 84% of my day was owned by alcohol because I gave it that power, not because it took it. I gave it. It is an addictive substance, so there is that. I mean, but but there's I it owned 84% of my day. And I am so happy now when I think about it doesn't have any of my day. It has none of my day. I mean, I have my little routine that I still do. Yeah, I get up in the morning, I have my quiet time with my coffee, with my journal, or I'm writing a note to somebody, or, I have my little things that I do, my gratitude. But those are just mental health healthy. They're not about alcohol anymore. They're not about dealing with cravings. They're not, it's not about that. I have your group that I participate in, which was a godsend. I kept hearing in the podcast, find a community, find a community. And I was like, I don't know where to find a community. They're not at Walmart. They're not on the shelf. I can't find one anywhere. I live in a very rural area, and good God, I'm not going to walk up to somebody and be like, "You want to be my sober buddy? I need a community." And I'm not going to AA. That's a valid place for it has a lot of merit. I'm not saying that it doesn't. It just wasn't the path I was going to take. So, you had just this random post about a book you were reading in your book club, and I was like, "Well, yeah, I slid right in your DMs. How does one join this book club?" And then you gave me the information, and there I was. And I had this beautiful community of support and love and compassion. It was a place where you can talk about your thoughts so just real, so open. And you can hear that you're not crazy. You can hear that, what tools might help you through that. There's a little accountability there as well. Like you want to report back to the group, "Hey, I did my first sober wedding. It went great," or "It was this or that. Most first things don't go great. Oh, they didn't for me. They might for you, anyone else listening. I hope they do. But some of them just felt a little awkward because you got to get comfortable in your new skin. And then so community is huge. Community was a huge point of my success as well.
Yeah, wonderful. I felt like this is just such a great conversation for people who are like, "What is the first year like without
Mhm.
drinking?" And you led up to it so kindly, like sharing all your previous attempts and that you had learned from them, that they weren't a waste of time. Because I think people get frustrated with that, like, "Oh, if I only would have given this up 10 years ago," or whatever, I just can't get it, or I'm frustrated, or why do I keep doing this? It's like, it is all part of the process to get to where you are now. And
Mhm.
we always talk about, you know, would we go back to our past selves and what would we say to our past selves? And I'm like, I would just say, "I love you, you're gonna be okay." And I don't know
Mhm.
that I would tell past Debbie, like, "Stop drinking when you're 21," or whatever, like, because I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have gotten together with my husband. I wouldn't have my kids. I wouldn't have met you or all the wonderful people I've met along the way. So our hindsight is it's like, okay, this is how it was supposed to happen. Those were all leading me to where I am today. What do you think about that?
That is so true. Yes, I agree with you 100%. I have a picture of myself on, like I said, September 18th was my day that I had, what I consider my official no more drinking day. And I have a picture of myself from September 16th. And I use that as kind of like my year one comparison. And when I look at that woman from September 16th, 2023, I I want to wrap my arms around her. I want to just love her because I know how much I was not loving her. And I just
Mhm.
wanna say thank you. I just wanna say, "You're doing it, girl. You're doing just fine. You're doing what you need to be doing right now. You're doing what you're doing with what you know at the time." And I think of that often. Like, I don't regret that. I just don't regret. There's no place for shame or guilt as far as, like, the regret and different things, like, "I should have done this 10 years ago," or, well, last 10 years of my life, I mean, they weren't horrible. Like you said, there's great things that happen too. And then where I'm at now, I feel the same way. And, we have this beautiful friendship that I can't imagine my life without now. I just can. And there's people. And that's another piece of it too, is my relationships are so intentional now. The people that I am close to I'm close to them in a different way. I'm close in a it's just I'm very connected. I'm very present in that relationship, and I can give myself in a whole different way to them. And my relationships feel really good, really good.
Mm.
And some had
Yeah.
to go through a transition, for them. I mean, one person, the closest to me besides my husband, my cousin, she was off on an overseas trip buying all this beer and wine for us. She was in Germany and Austria, and she was dragging it all back because we were going to have a heck of a, you know, party afterwards, or we were gonna taste all these, drinks, and, she didn't know that I had taken off head first on this journey, and when she got back all excited with her purchases, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not drinking anymore," and she was like, "Oh, okay, okay. What do you need from me?" And I said, "I just need you to include me. I need you to love me, and just be patient with me," and she's like, "Oh, okay. I can do that. Do you have any idea how much alcohol I bought?" She said, like, and we laughed so hard, like, but for her, I ripped the rug right out from underneath her in a way, and I had to give, and she was fabulous throughout the year, but she had to work through that too. And she had to have time to transition to this new identity I was creating in myself. And she did beautifully. But you really have to give the relationships around you some time.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Something else that stood out for me was when you were talking about like, you talked about how much power you had given alcohol and taking your power back, and I just always think of the inverse Spider-Man quote whenever anyone talks about power, because the Spider-Man quote is, "With great power comes great responsibility," and the inverse is, "With responsibility comes great power," and I think that's what you did so beautifully that you showed, like, I'm driving the bus. I'm in charge
Mhm.
here. I'm gonna allow my emotions to ride with me, my cravings to ride with me, but I'm not gonna let alcohol rule my life anymore and take up 85% of the day. I remember that graphic. I shared it on Instagram. I'll have to share it again of how much time alcohol takes in our head. And to get that brain space back. Wow, what a gift. What a
Mhm.
gift.
Yeah, it is. It is a gift, and it is a gift that I still continue to open every day. It doesn't it just every day still continues to feel like this gift of a new day. I can do I can run this day however I want to run this day. And if I'm going to be a little bit down today for whatever reason, my emotions are there, I'm going to do that today. And that's a gift too, to allow
Mhm.
yourself that freedom.
You kind of shared throughout like what was making you successful this time, but what kind of stands out to you as like what made it stick this time? Like what were some of the top things that made it stick for you?
Self-love, number 1, being just super kind and compassionate to myself every day. You can do this, you are doing this, you did this yesterday, you will do this today. That was number
And you're
1.
and you're
Um,
fucking awesome.
yep, yep, and you're fucking awesome. That helped a ton too. That helped. The, uh just moving my body was very important, and I wasn't exercising like I had been before. It was really just in steps. It was just walking, just making sure that I was moving my body a little bit. Um, Playing it forward, what would that drink do for me? What would it really do for me? Do I want that one drink? Do I want more than one? Where will this go? That was very helpful to me. Another piece that was so helpful to me was I timed my cravings. So when I would start to feel like that witching hour come upon me, like talking about, oh, just have a glass of wine for crying out loud. You're just gonna sit here all night and drink sparkling water. The hell's wrong with you? I would start the timer on my phone to see how long that truly lasted. And I saw that it was anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes. Like 8 to 10 minutes would I kind of think about that. Eventually that got shorter and shorter and shorter, but 8 to 10 minutes. And it was like, well, I mean, think about it. You can do anything for 8 to 10 minutes. We're stuck in traffic for 8 to 10 minutes. We're stuck in the line at the store for 8 to 10 minutes. I mean, there's a lot of things you can endure for 8 to 10 minutes. My labors were a day long. So with that in mind, I started breaking the days up into how many 8 to 10 increments are there in a day? And then I told myself I had been successful for X number of times. So say I had been successful for 10,200 8 to 10 minute increments that I could do one more. So I did a little bit of that. That was helpful. The podcasts were helpful. Community.
Mhm. Yeah,
Community was
yeah.
huge. Mhm.
Love yourself, move your body, play it forward, the timing of the cravings. I loved how the little numbers geek came out.
Yeah.
But that's the practice. That's what you're doing. You're practicing. You're learning. You're learning to sit with it, sit with the feelings. No feeling is final, it'll pass. And even when you were sharing about your full year, like you did have this period of a gray cloud and it
Mhm.
passed. It was a season. So that's just so wonderful. I like the tangible ideas.
And the gray cloud though, it had a purpose. It Even though
Mm.
it was there and I had to go through it, it had a very deep purpose. It was there. It was my grieving period. It was my identity changing. And I would go through that again 4 times as long if I knew, that I could just it took me a while to realize that's what happened during that time, and the way that I realized it was through journaling. I frequently would go back and read my journal to see, like, how far have I come this year. I wasn't great about journaling every day, but that really helped me see the theme of my moods throughout the year and how things had changed.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, just great, great tips. Thank you for sharing that. So what are your plans for the future?
Well, I'm pretty excited. I never thought I could be successful in a sober life, in an alcohol-free life. I just, I started that at the beginning. I'm not going to go down that whole path of that again. But once I realized that I can be successful and I can be more than successful, I can really rock this thing. I really want to work with others who are wanting the same thing. And so with that being said, I have a website, goldendaysobriety.com. I started a blog there. The blog is looking at, day 1 compared to a year later. So I really want to compare the in contrast throughout this year what that looks like. So right now we're just up to 3 weeks. 3 because, we just hit the 3-week mark and we're recording this early in October. So I really want people to have that resource to look at. It may help somebody. I just don't want people to feel alone. I've gotten a certification in life coaching recently, and I'm also in a program to be certified as a recovery coach. And I am certified as a smart recovery facilitator. And so with that, I think that goes along with our background as nurses. We like to be very trained in what we're doing, right? We're trained in a high way, I guess, if you put it that. And so I would like to work with others that are wanting the same in a coaching manner. I would like to coach others to find this same freedom. It's the most beautiful thing in the world. I think there's a special need out there in a lot of ways. I think healthcare workers um, have gone through a trauma through COVID. A lot was expected out of them. And, then we just went back to, thank goodness, life as usual. Thank goodness we did get there. But I think, some healing is going to be needed to be done in that capacity, and I relate well to them. I relate really well to the 50 and up woman. I seem to do well with that generation, even in 60 and up. I think there's, a need there to help some of those women find an alcohol-free life if that is what they desire. I just feel so good about it. I feel so empowered now that I just want to help whoever else is out there that wants to get there. Like, come on, we can do this. We can do this. And so that's what I want to do now with my spare time.
I love that. I'll
My
put those
passion.
links in there. Yeah, goldendaysobriety.com. And yeah, I just want to thank you for just jumping into the group, coming into our community, the Alcohol Tipping Point, and helping out, just sharing so much of your journey. And then Danielle's been hosting some connection calls inside the group, and you're just a natural. And I'm so grateful for you. I'm so glad that we connected. Danielle came on my retreat to Georgia. So we met for the first time in person there, and she came to Sober in the City, Seattle. And I just feel like, oh, I just have a friend for life too. Like it's kind of crazy that, we say like everybody has like a shit pickle. Drinking was our shit pickle. And yet, gosh, what gifts it has given us. Like just to have this friendship with you. Like, wow, what a gift that has been and continues to be. So thank you.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you. Thank you so much for everything you do. I've listened to you for many years. So you've had just so many great episodes out there that help me, oh, so much.
Oh,
It's been
good. Well, I'm
wonderful.
so glad that like you're a part of this journey and you're sharing your story. If anyone else is listening and like this is inspiring to you, if you want to reach out and share your story or even, think like, gosh, a year from now, I'm going to share my story on the podcast, like use this as inspiration. And if you want to join a community, join a group, come join the next alcohol a day, run them every month. I always have a link in my show notes for that. And just, know that you're not alone, that you can change. And Danielle, thank you for sharing your story. I'm just so happy I get to continue to watch you grow and that we get to do it together. So thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Alcohol Tipping Point podcast. Please share and review the show so you can help other people too. I want you to know I'm always here for you, so please reach out and talk to me on Instagram at Alcohol Tipping Point and check out my website, alcoholtippingpoint.com, for free resources and help. No matter where you are on your drinking journey, I want to encourage you to just keep practicing, keep going. I promise you are not alone and you are worth it. Every day you practice not drinking is a day you can learn from. I hope you can use these tips we talked about for the rest of your week, and until then, talk to you next time.